At exactly 7:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this evening, the North American geopolitical architecture didn't just crack, it shattered. I have spent decades analyzing the ebb and flow of international relations, but I am telling you now, we have entered a territory for which there is no map. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney did something tonight that has never occurred in the history of the U.S.-Canada relationship. He didn't send a diplomatic cable. He didn't call for a closed-door summit at Camp David. Instead, he appeared live on CNN for 37 minutes of primetime television with Anderson Cooper. I want you to understand the strategic audacity of this move. Carney bypassed the State Department, he bypassed the White House press pool, and he spoke directly over the heads of the U.S. government to you, the American voter, the American business leader, and the global investor. It was a clinical, cold-blooded execution of a failing American narrative. For over half an hour, Carney didn't just argue, he dismantled. He was calm, he was factual, and he was utterly unrelenting. He brought receipts, physical documents, legal opinions, and most devastatingly, audio recordings that the White House assumed would never see the light of day. As I watched this unfold, I realized the power dynamics had shifted irrevocably. Carney's conclusion was a dagger. President Trump knows exactly what he must do to end this crisis. The question is whether he has the courage to admit he was wrong. Then, he issued the challenge that has left Washington in a state of terminal shock. A standing invitation to a live, televised debate. Anytime, anywhere. No filters. I've seen some bold moves in my time, but a foreign leader daring the President of the United States to defend his actions on live TV? That is a masterclass in strategic confidence. Let's look at how Carney methodically undermined every single talking point coming out of the Trump administration. Anderson Cooper opened with the question everyone in Washington has been shouting: why is Canada being so aggressive? Carney's response was the most precise setting of the record I have ever heard. He looked Cooper in the eye and said, "I want to be very clear. Canada did not start this crisis." He reminded the audience, and he's reminding you, that it wasn't Canada who violated the USMCA. It wasn't Canada who threatened to annex American states or dismantle the very defense systems like NORAD that keep this continent safe. Trump did those things. Canada, as Carney put it, is simply responding to an unprovoked aggression. Everything Ottawa has done since February has been an act of national self-defense against a partner that decided, overnight, to become an adversary. Then came the documents. Carney pulled out a copy of the 2020 USMCA. He pointed specifically to Article 2.4. I've analyzed that treaty, and Carney is 100% correct. The tariffs Trump imposed are a flagrant violation of the very deal his own team negotiated. But the real kill shot was the legal opinion from the USMCA Dispute Resolution Panel dated February 20th, 2026. This isn't just Canada's opinion. It is a unanimous ruling from an international tribunal stating that U.S. actions are illegal and must be reversed. When the White House calls Canada unreasonable, they are betting that you haven't read the law. Carney just made sure you did. And what about the claim that Canada is weaponizing energy? Carney was surgical here. He reminded the world that while Canada has sold energy to the U.S. for decades, it is a sovereign nation, not a vassal state. We are not obligated to sell our natural resources at prices and quantities dictated by Washington, he said. Trump is demanding subordination, not trade. And as an analyst, I can tell you, Carney has made it clear that Canada will not accept the status of a captive gas station. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to this next part, because this is the moment that likely ended any hope of a White House spin operation. Cooper asked about the infamous March 3rd phone call, the one where Carney reportedly hung up on the president. Carney looked at the camera and said, "The American people have a right to know the truth." With the full backing of his government's legal counsel, he played a 90-second audio clip. It was unmistakably Donald Trump's voice, and it was chilling. The president was heard telling the prime minister, "Canada needs us more than we need you. Drop this nonsense about sovereignty and respect. Sign the energy deal, pull out of that stupid NATO fund, or I will turn Canada into an economic wasteland. The silence in that CNN studio was deafening. I felt it, and I'm sure you felt it too. This wasn't a trade negotiation. It was a shakedown. It was the President of the United States threatening to destroy the economy of his closest ally unless they surrendered their independence. Carney's follow-up was lethal. That is the truth of this crisis. It's not about trade policy. It's about whether Canada will accept American domination. By releasing that audio, Carney performed a strategic lobotomy on Trump's public image. The reasonable dealmaker narrative is dead. What remains is the image of an autocrat bullying a neighbor. Within minutes, this clip was the top trending topic on every platform. The White House was caught completely flat-footed. They didn't even know they were being recorded. Their response? A weak claim of executive privilege and selective editing. But notice what they didn't do. They didn't deny the authenticity of the tape. They didn't explain how threatening to destroy a friend is reasonable. Carney took a massive gamble here, and it paid off. He has mobilized American public opinion against the White House. Now, let's talk about the clock. Carney confirmed that the March 18th deadline is real. He has given Washington exactly 8 days to decide the future of the continent. If all 5 requirements aren't met by 5 p.m. on that day, Canada activates Phase 2. I want you to understand what that means for your life. Total suspension of energy exports. Your gas prices will double. Withdrawal from USMCA. The supply chains for your cars and food will snap. Dissolution of NORAD. The security umbrella over North America vanishes. Suspension of U.S. banks in Canada. The launch of the Democratic Trade Alliance. This last one is the most dangerous for American interests. Carney is building a post-American trade bloc with 40 other nations designed specifically to bypass the U.S. and protect members from American coercion. This isn't a bluff, it is a commitment. When Cooper asked about the suffering of ordinary Americans, Carney was empathetic but firm. He didn't blame the American people. He blamed their president. He said, "I regret the pain this will cause, but Canada did not create this situation. Your president did." He is effectively telling the U.S. public, "Your leader is driving you into a ditch because of his ego. You can stop this by demanding he meet my 5 requirements." Those requirements: removing tariffs, signing the NORAD commitment, retracting sovereignty threats, paying compensation, and recognizing resource control are, in Carney's words, the minimum basis for partnership between sovereign equals. I agree with him. They aren't complicated, they aren't unreasonable. But for a president who views compromise as a death sentence, they are an existential threat. So, where do we go from here? Carney ended the interview by looking directly into the lens and speaking to the man in the Oval Office. He dared him to a fair debate. He dared him to stop hiding behind Truth Social and defend his threats in front of the world. Trump's response on social media was predictable. He called Carney a liar and a coward and rejected the debate as beneath the dignity of the presidency. But here is the problem for the White House. When you refuse to debate a man who just played a tape of you threatening him, you don't look dignified. You look afraid. I see 2 scenarios for the next 8 days, and you need to be prepared for both. Scenario 1. Pressure forces capitulation. The GOP is already fracturing. Chuck Schumer is calling Trump an autocrat. Polling shows 62% of Americans side with Canada. By March 15th, the market panic and political revolt might force Trump to sign Carney's terms. He will frame it as ending the crisis, but the world will know he was defeated by Canada. Scenario 2. The deep freeze. Trump's ego won't let him back down. March 18th passes. Carney pulls the lever. The U.S. economy enters an immediate, self-inflicted crisis. Within 72 hours, the damage is so severe that Congress is forced to act, potentially even beginning impeachment or removal proceedings. I'm watching the next 24 hours very closely. Will Republican governors in the Midwest, whose economies depend on Canadian oil, break with the president? Will the media outlets force the debate issue? Carney went on American TV and took the fight to the enemy's home turf. He has the facts, he has the audio, and most importantly, he has the resolve. The quiet neighbor is gone. In his place stands a global strategist who has just put the President of the United States in checkmate. 8 days remain. Don't blink. Canada is winning, and Washington has no answer. I'm your analyst. Stay informed. I'll see you in the next update.